Thank you, Eddie, for joining me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm so excited to chat with you because you've been hiding out in Miami all these years during my career, and and these last couple years you've been around more, which I've really enjoyed. So I'm excited to get to have an in-depth conversation about your time in New York City Ballet and your whole career. I'm really excited.
Well, I'd be delighted to talk about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So you just survived the coronavirus, which is
Yes,
a very big deal.
a very big deal.
How did that compare to your dancing years?
Almost as hard.
Yeah, like running Tarantella.
A gut buster. Who's got those?
Yeah, totally.
I loved it. I loved every.
You did?
I did. I did. I couldn't wait for the curtain to go up. I was one of those really maniac kind of guys. I
Interesting.
couldn't wait for that curtain to go up and hit that stage. And that was my whole premise. I couldn't wait to hit the stage.
I love that. I have that same feeling too, but then I have to admit sometimes I can't wait for the curtain to go down as well. Just to, stop the misery. So I actually get to do a lot of the ballets that you originated, so that's kind of fun for me. Tarantella was like the very first thing I did at New York City Ballet. What was that like to originate those things?
Well, when you work with a ballet team, when you work with the level of a Robbins or a Paul Taylor or whatever, it was always significant. And in particular with Ballantine, he just knew us so well. And he worked towards our strengths and our abilities.
Right.
If we didn't have that, he wouldn't cast you. So it was always comfortable.
And rewarding.
Comfortable in terms of your skin, what your abilities were.
That's so cool. It's like he gave you guys these gifts.
He truly did on an ongoing basis. And then he would find us something that challenged us slightly beyond what we were terrifically comfortable with. It was just a brilliant time.
That's so cool. Did you know at the time that it was such an honor to be working with him, or did you look back later and give it even more respect? Like, wow, I was there during those years.
No, I remember I was 10 years old at the School of American Ballet, way, way back, and suddenly the door opened. And it was almost like he never touched the door. It just opened for him. And he walked in, and there was such a dignity and a quality and elegance about him. And from that time on, I said, this is the man. I mean, you could just see it, the genius in Humphrey with his genius. And that was it. He was always comfortable. He always knew who he was. He always knew exactly what he wanted. He knew exactly who you were, and he would provide it. Well, incredible.
That is so cool. So when did you start ballet? Because you had a military moment as well, right?
Yeah, 4 years of it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I had a sister who was a year older, and my mother was an orphan, and she was so focused on her daughter because she wanted her daughter to have all of the opportunity that she never did. Mm. And so she found a local school where I grew up in Queens, and she took my sister off there. And I was one of those feisty guys, I was full of energy and full of physicality.
Not surprised.
I was sharper and faster and stronger until everybody got to be 13. And they kept growing and I didn't. So it became a different circumstance. But boy, did I learn how to fight.
Amazing.
Anyway, one day my mother was off with my sister, and I used to hang out in the streets and did what I did well. We played baseball in the streets. We played stickball. We did all of those things, and we had a game called running bases, and you would get one sewer, and somebody would be on the other, and they'd be throwing a ball back and forth, and you had to run between them and beat the tank. And one day, I got whacked in the back of the head with a baseball, knocked me unconscious, and my pals picked me up, dragged me home, threw me on the stoop, and ran. And I sort of got up, and I finally get into the house, and a neighbor had seen this, and when my mother came home, she told her. And my mother said, okay, we can't trust you on the streets anymore. From now on, you're coming to your sister's class. And actually, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So I got dragged there, and I had to sit and watch 40 giggling girls, their mothers, and me. It was not my perfect comfort.
How old were you then?
7.
Okay.
So not usually what I was used to. Not my bad. So anyway, I'm watching. I'm just bored to death, and they're doing all these dainty little, lovely gestures and all this stuff, and I'm going, oh yeah. Finally, they started to jump. Whoa! Jump, okay. So I got all excited about that, and I sneaked in to the back of the class, and I started flying around. I said, oh, yeah, I could do this. And then I started to make fun of it. And then the teacher went to my mother and said, get him out of here, or put him in tights at the bar.
Yeah.
Next day, I was in tights at the bar. Furious. Furious. But as time goes by, I began to see a structure, a form, a logic about it all. And I could see that there was a good reason to do this if you like to move, which I did. So I kept my mouth shut, but I just kind of let it go along. And then my mother, bless her heart, found out by this guy, about this guy called George Valentine, who had this school of American Ballet. And she took my sister in. My sister auditioned. She was accepted, given a little scholarship. And my mother, as they were leaving, said, oh, incidentally, I have a son at home who also dances, but, he's not very interested. And they said, a son, a boy, can he walk? Bring him in. Drag me in. And I started at the School of American Ballet in the middle 40s.
Incredible.
So I have a long, long history with that school, which
so cool.
I loved and admired and continue to do. And it provided me with a life, a wholly different life. I mean, my father was, he was one of 9 children who survived. They were 12 in all.
Oh, wow. Are both of your parents from the New York area? Did they grow up in Queens?
Yes. Very Italian, old Italian.
Uh-huh.
My father was a basic older Italian background, manner, approach.
Uh-huh.
Mother, being this orphan, said, I want more than this. And she was the modern woman. And remarkable. I mean, just absolutely remarkable. I was very fortunate to have these people until they turned against me. My sister decided to quit, and my mother was devastated. And she said, okay, all right, that's it. I don't ever want to hear this word ballet in this house ever again.
Oh, wow.
And my father was thrilled. And he stopped me dancing. I stopped dancing for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in marine transportation. I'm a graduate of the New York State Maritime College, where I won my letters in baseball. I was welterweight boxing champion. And then I said, nah, I want to be a ballet dancer.
Wait, Eddie, so you went to SAB from 7 until you graduated from high school, and then you went to this maritime school?
Yes, I was not quite 17. I was still at the end of it. I made high school in 3 years.
Okay.
And the point of that was to be a dancer sooner.
Yeah.
But when my dancing sister quit, that was the end of it all.
So I'm also curious about your SAB years before we move on. How did you commute in? Did you take the subway to SAB back in the day?
Well, it was a 7-block walk that I took a bus all the way into Flushing. Then I got on the train, and then I took a second train, and there I was at SAB, which at that time was it was Madison Avenue.
Oh, okay.
57, 8.
Okay, that's convenient for a Queens boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a Queens boy.
Yeah.
What was I?
Amazing. And did you commute in with your mom and your sister every day like that?
Actually, at that time, I guess I was 10 years old. And in those years, it was okay for kids to get on buses and subways and that kind of stuff. It's a very different time.
Yeah.
And it was much safer.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't have those kinds of concerns that exist today.
Uh-huh. That's amazing. So you're just there on your own, going to SAB.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
And, you know, in those years, even in these years now, oh my God, you're guys. Oh, you know, it's a whole other world.
Yeah.
It was always the only boy in class with all those girls.
So they didn't have a boys' division then?
Well, you know, they were beginning all of this sort of stuff.
Right.
I mean, it really was early on stuff. So it took a while. It took a while for all of this to evolve, not just me and all that, but the school itself.
Right.
For instance, where could they get guys? But not only where could they get guys, they needed monies. So I guess Lincoln Kirstein, who was in the Army himself, organized it so that you could get an education through the School of American Ballet. So they had all of these ex-soldiers who decided they wanted to be ballet dancers. And it was all over the world. I mean, none of these guys really survived.
Oh, okay. I'm wondering who was there. Who was there with you? Was Jacques D'Amboise with you?
Yeah, Jacques was older, bigger, but we always tussled and wrestled and all of this. And I had a conversation with him at his place a while ago, and he said, "Yeah, I know. I used to beat you up all the time, and I used to do this and do that." I said, "Yeah, Jacques, you're okay. The problem was I was much faster than you."
Amazing. I would love to see you two together. I don't think I ever have, actually. I mean, we've been at similar events together, but to see you guys go back and forth would be pretty fun. Incredible. So anybody else from that time that went through the school like you did that ended up being a real Balanchine dancer?
I can't say that. No, not that I remember.
So you were unique.
Well, yeah, I guess it was. But
he at that time he was getting most of the men from other companies, or they were already established dancers elsewhere. Is that how it was happening?
Yeah, and what was happening was once the school got itself organized, it became the premier school.
Right.
So already developing young guys would go to the school, and they would evolve that way and finally end up in the. And those are years and years ago, and the names I would have at that time for you were, I mean, guys like Iglesky would turn up in class. Yuskevich would. I don't even know if you know these names.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they were the mature senior technicians of the day, and of course they were mostly European, Russian, and they were not exactly suited to the Balanchinian approach. Iglesky was at the New York City Ballet, but he would dance pas de deux, he would dance Mika's pas de trois, Blinka pas de trois, old stuff like that.
Right.
He would do.
Right. And your teachers, were they mostly the female Russian teachers that were at the school at the time?
Well, female Russian, but also men. The guy named Abukov, Vladimirov, they were the two main male teachers.
Oh, great. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And Mr. B, how often was he teaching when you were there?
Well, he would teach. He would teach. What did they call it? Not company class, but something like that. On Saturdays.
Oh, okay.
And then the place would fill up. People had to watch Balanchine, see Balanchine, know about Balanchine. All of those things. Again, a very, very different period in time.
Right. And that was like a combined men and women's class.
Yes.
Cool. That's kind of the same tradition today, that they've continued a Saturday class with the boss.
Yeah.
That's fun. So, what were you thinking when you were? Tell me about your time in this maritime college and what your major was and what your interests were. It sounds just like an incredible departure. How did you get there?
Uh,
Did your dad just shove you that way?
well, my father said, "You're not going to be a dancer. I'm embarrassed that you wear tights. And you are indeed going to school. You're going to college." And I had a very, very close friend whose brother was going to the maritime college. So he said, you should come up on the weekend. And we went to school 5.5 days a week. And at the end of that half day, they would have a major parade. We'd all have to gather and do all this military kind of stuff. So I went up, I took a look, and I said, I'm not going to go anyway, but I'll humor everybody.
Right.
And I went, and I started to humor everybody. And the next thing I knew, I had a suitcase in each hand.
Oh, wow.
I was standing in the arches of Fort Scott. It's an old Civil War fort.
Uh-huh.
And it is probably the premier maritime school in the country.
Where exactly is it located? It's further up north?
Do you know where Frog's Neck is?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay. There's something called the Frog's Neck Bridge,
Uh-huh.
which essentially goes. It's at the end of the East River,
Okay.
and where it moves into the Sound,
Uh-huh.
and that's where the maritime.
Oh, interesting.
It's in the Bronx.
Okay.
I don't know what else.
And you lived in a dormitory there?
Well, we lived in old World War II barracks.
Oh.
Yeah. And we had to march down every morning to get to the fort where the school was. And there were athletic facilities and gyms and all of those kinds of things. And naturally, the first thing I did was I went out for the baseball stuff, the boxing stuff, all of that. And, I had all this physicality.
Yeah. So you weren't there doing a ballet bar?
No. Oh, boy. Yeah. They used to razz me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But then, once I became welterweight champion, they didn't razz me no more.
Amazing. Amazing.
I was in the class, what was I, 57, I guess.
Okay.
So, and that was a year basically I joined the New York City Ballet.
So now that you took that time and knowing that you still got to have your dancing career and everything, do you look back at those years fondly, like you're glad you did it?
Yeah, I still have friends from
cool.
way back then, and there was such a camaraderie. And
yeah,
you don't have to get it, but in the military there's a certain camaraderie.
For sure.
You're really in it together.
Yeah.
However, we also had our own training show. And once you finished your last semester, we went off on training cruises around the world. I mean, we would go, the first cruise went to the Mediterranean. And all the ports and things in between, and even got caught in a hurricane at 3 o'clock in the morning, and general alarm goes off, and we all ran to our boat stations in our skivvies and throwing on life jackets at 3 o'clock. And the ship was in distress, and we swung the boats out. And once you swing the boats out, you start to take it very serious.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
Yeah.
So you guys were like on like life rafts, kind of, while in a hurricane?
We were, again, all I can tell you is, the lifeboats are hung on the sides of the boats.
Right.
And then they have davits that swing them out.
Uh-huh.
And once they're swung out, it means you better be ready.
Yeah.
So it was a serious moment.
Totally. What was your job on when you were on these boats? Did you have a position?
Oh, well, we basically, there were about 1,000 of us on the ship, and we had to run the ship. So we learned everything. Again, you would understand it because it's a whole other world.
Yeah.
We used to find out where we were with these instruments where you shot the moon. You shot various and sundry places, so you could figure out on a map where you were at that particular moment.
Oh, wow.
So it was fascinating education. In addition to which, we were, oh my God, I was, 17, and I'm in Europe. And we would pop off to all of these places, Copenhagen, London, it was serious.
So you got to have a little time on shore.
Yeah.
Cool. Like fancy free.
Well, sort of, yeah.
That's how I'm imagining it. So when it's over, what gave you that inkling, I'm going to dance again?
Well, the inkling never left me.
Uh-huh.
I was so, I guess essentially depressed because, first of all, I had prepared to do high school in 3 years.
Right.
To become, and I had certain obvious abilities.
Right.
The first being I could jump.
Yeah.
And if you're a guy, boy, you better jump.
Right.
And so I couldn't wait, and then it was just taken away from me. So now I'm done with it. So I went to my dad and I gave my degree. And I said, Dad, this is for you. Now I'm going to become a ballet dancer. He didn't talk to me for 2 years. So I invited him the first year. I invited both he and my mom the second year. And he said, okay, we'll come. But where you'll be standing way back in the line, we won't even be able to recognize you. So I said, look, Dad, come. If you like it, great. If you don't, I'll understand. But if you like it, I'll leave word with the stage doorman, and he'll let you backstage. So let's just see how it goes. So there are 4 ballets on. I have 3 principal and soloist roles in 3 of those 4 ballets.
You're not in the back line.
I'm flying around, doing what I could, and the curtain comes down, then it goes back up, the stage amp comes, he puts the night light out, and balancing grabs me, and he's showing me everything I've done wrong and right, this and that. And we finish our conversation, we shake hands, he goes off stage right, I go off stage left, and I hear something, and I see something. And there are the wings of my mother and father in tears.
Oh, I love that.
We stood on that stage, laughing, hugging, and crying.
Ah.
My father became a ballet-man.
Oh, I love this story.
But my father had a trucking business in the garment center.
Okay.
His trucking business was one truck. And his assistant was his brother, and his brother liked to chase the horses in the summer. So I worked on my father's truck in the garment center when I was 11, 12, and 13 years old.
Uh-huh.
And I became expert. I don't know if you've ever been in the garment center when they're pushing these trucks around these. So I could handle 3 trucks.
Uh-huh.
I get 2 pipes in the back, 2 pipes in the front. I kick against the bench and pop them up over curbs and all of this. I was a little tiny guy. So it was amusing and an education unto itself.
Right. And so after that first show, what did they say? Was your dad just surprised? Like he didn't think that it was, you made it cool to him? What changed?
Well, first of all, that I could do it.
Okay.
And I did it with, a nice acceptance from the audience.
Yeah.
So that gave him
Got it.
a wholly different point of departure with all of this.
Right.
So it became okay.
Yeah.
And bless his heart.
That must have been a really validating moment. All of these years you've been being like, no, I like this. This is what I want to do. And you kind of did it against his will for many years. And then he's like, okay, I love it. And you're awesome.
It's very nice to have parental approval.
Totally. Absolutely.
It's a lovely, wonderful feeling.
Absolutely.
And I sometimes hope I pass that on to my kids.
Yeah. So, who did you dance with the most in your career, from your memory?
Whoa.
In my head, I'm thinking Patty.
Oh, Patty was, Patty and I were very comfortable together. I danced with Patty most of my time, most of my life. We never had a crossword.
She's the sweetest. She is the sweetest.
She's angelic.
She really is.
Absolutely angelic.
So it can get dramatic though and intense. She never got stressed out, and she was just always her pleasant little self.
Always.
Incredible.
Always.
That requires a certain amount of confidence too, right?
She had the most beautiful, what did I used to call it? I know what it was. Perfect naivete.
Right.
Because she didn't need ego.
Uh-huh.
And once you watched her move and dance, once you put your hands on her and knowing where she was going and that you were helping and guiding, it was a remarkable relationship. But I danced with everybody. I danced with Villella.
Right.
Danced with Kate Mazo. I mean, you name it. So long as they weren't too tall.
That's cute. That's cute. What about Sarah Leland? Did you dance with her ever?
Sure, Sarah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the pas de deux in the big ballet. Yeah.
Symphony in 3?
Yeah.
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 Cool. Amazing.
She was delightful. And the thing with the ballerinas were that they were all so much smarter than the guys. So it was just wonderful. They'd be doing all of this stuff, and you got slick with it all. And you presented them. I'm presenting a woman on stage. A masterwork.
That's so cute. Did you have a dressing roommate?
We were still in City Center at that time, and I had the first year, top floor. There were 4 of us in that dressing room. Arthur Mitchell, Richard Rapp, Jonathan Watts, and me.
Mm-hmm. And then when you moved to how was that transitioning? You were there for the transition between City Center and then this newly built State Theater. What was that like?
Oh, it was remarkable. And, Balanchine used to ask me to go over to the new theater because the architectural requirements in New York City are that you cannot have wooden stages. You have to have them on cement.
Oh.
Yeah, cement. So Balanchine, in his wisdom, invents this webbing and a floor on top of it. And he used to send me over and ask me to jump on these little well, how do you go, dear? Okay, all right, you can land, you can make it.
What a great impression. That was such a good impression.
I was around that guy a long time. He was an amazing human being. I mean, just amazing. Anyway.
So you were responsible for the springiness of the floor.
Well, I had my initials on it.
Yeah. That's so cool. And then obviously the space was much bigger when you guys moved. Was that exciting to cover that much space, or were certain ballets suddenly more difficult?
Oh no, they were easier.
Okay.
It's very hard to hold back.
It's interesting. It's almost like he created these ballets with a larger stage in mind then.
He always had that in mind.
Uh-huh.
He knew where he wanted to go.
Amazing.
And he knew what he wanted his ballets to look like.
Yeah.
On an ongoing basis. And he made it all happen. And for me, because I was this kind of mover and jumper and all of this stuff, a diagonal where I didn't have to hold back.
Right.
Oh my God, I'd be one end and way down there. Oh my God, I could get all the way down there. Then I could go across. Then I could. It was good.
I'm curious, did anybody struggle to transition to a bigger stage? Because it is quite a large stage, and the thing that I've absorbed from the beginning, a lot of the beginning of my career is, especially Sally Leland, just saying travel, like cover this space, especially as a shorter dancer. Did anybody have an adjustment where Balanchine was having to say cover more space, travel?
Uh, it was so ingrained in us,
Uh-huh.
and everything came from him.
Right.
Uh,
So you already understood impetus for all of the movement was to be as grand as possible.
well, there's a dynamic about letting go. Once you let go, you are a different animal.
That's true.
You truly are.
That's true.
And for me, for the first time, I was in my comfort. Not to hold back.
Right.
To have the power.
That's so cool.
Holding back. Oh, wow.
So you guys loved that theater from the minute you were there.
Oh, absolutely.
That's so cool.
No question.
That's so cool. So I'm just curious about, because you originated so many fantastic roles, do you have any interesting stories about like Tarantella or Ruby's when he was creating it on you? Or any of the ballets that he created on you?
Well, almost any one of them.
Yeah.
But Tarantella was, he started out with Violette Verdi and myself. And Violette was having foot problems.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to take some time off or whatever. So Balanchine decides on Patty McBride. And when he choreographed, of course, he would choreograph in little sections, and they were not necessarily in the order.
Okay.
So you had all of these pieces, and when he finally finishes it, he puts it all together, and he says, okay, now we try, from beginning, we're going to do from beginning. So we go, and we start flying around, and you know what that piece is.
Oh, yeah.
And I give her a kiss. Off she goes. And me too. And so goes the tambourine. It's me flying flat.
Yeah.
So that was my first real understanding of the challenge and dimension of that work.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable little gem of a work. It's genius.
Yeah. It has this interesting feeling on stage because it's this engine that doesn't stop. The atmosphere I feel when I'm on the stage, and it's like no other ballet. There's no moment of pause. It's just like this whirlwind of excitement, and usually people are in the wings watching. I'm sure you guys always had this fun energy going on. How did you get pumped up for it? Because I know Joaquin, he had all of his things. He'd have a Red Bull, a coffee, a Gatorade, all before the show.
No. For me, how I prepared for it was I'd get a jar of honey on stage left and a jar of honey on stage right. And once I got off, I would, boom, here I come again.
Amazing. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Were other people doing the honey shots mid-show?
I didn't give a damn.
Yeah, but it must work. I feel like I need to try it next time we're back.
It gives you a jolt of pre-digested energy.
Yeah.
Honey is pre-digested.
Yeah.
You don't have to gulp it and hope it's already on its way.
Right.
So
that's cool. I'm happy to know one of your little secrets.
I don't have many.
So I'm also curious about that moment in Ruby's that's got a little bit of your boxing history in it. How often did Balanchine, do things like that for you? That was like, I mean, that was speaking straight to your boxing years, right? Or did it evolve too much in that way?
No, people. It's what people say. I just did what I did.
Yeah.
Right. That's who I was.
Right.
Whenever I was on stage, you knew it was me. I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I love the idea of attacking.
Right.
This idea of this vitality and this energy, and it enlightens the gesture.
Right.
It's not doing a bunch of steps.
Right.
You have to understand how you get in it, how you get to the top,
right,
and how you get out of it.
Right.
Continue. It's a continuity. All this stuff is a full continuity. I mean, from the moment I would step on stage, first of all, I would wipe my mind clear. Because I didn't want to, think my way through something.
Right.
I had confidence in my abilities, but more importantly, I had confidence in the choreography.
Yeah.
And that it was done specifically for me.
Yeah, what a dream.
Yeah, I had a career that was for me so remarkable. For me, I mean specifically.
Yeah.
Me, and it's hard now to kind of fully articulate what some of those gestures were he gave me. Because as you were talking in this Ruby thing,
yeah,
nobody knows what it is. I know what it is. It's an old jazz step. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's not boxing. No. I imagined it Macho Man.
Nah, I was just hoping people would think I was macho. Oh dear. No, I had so much fun with everything. I mean, just cool. Everything.
And another ballet that stands out in my mind, well, many, is Prodigal.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a journey that ballet is. And do you enjoy the acting moments on stage too?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And the thing with Balanchine is he would show you, and he would talk maybe 3-4 words about it, and you either got it or you didn't. And I never got my eyes on that guy. I watched every single thing he did, and I understood because, it's unless you work with that guy, it's hard to understand.
Right.
The way he could communicate with us. It was unbelievable. And he was an incredible dancer. I mean, he wasn't a great technician, but boy, could he dance. And his musicality was superb. But whatever gesture he was giving you, you knew worked.
Right.
I mean, he redid the whole opening in Prodigal. Those 2 variations. He redid them for me. And so how much more conflict could I have?
Right.
and this was my first huge role.
How old were you when you did Prodigal? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't remember specifically, but it was pretty early on. Probably 23 or something like that. There was a lot to understand. I mean, a lot to provide the audience with.
Right.
And how you did it, how you related to your father, how you related to the sisters, how you related to the goons, how you related, at the end when the crucifixion.
Right.
That's a whole other world. And just getting off stage, what that was like.
Yeah.
So it was a remarkable work for me at a remarkable time.
Uh-huh.
And it provided me with so much confidence to go forward.
Yeah.
He had brought me to here.
Right.
Oh, now what are you going to do?
Right.
And that's the way he looked at us. Can you go beyond it? And then he would give you the next step. And it was unbelievable stuff. And, I was never trained to partner.
Uh-huh.
I never knew how to do it. And I come back when I'm 21 years old, like within days of my 21st birthday. And suddenly I have to become a presence on the stage.
Right.
I have to know who I am on stage. I have to know the period.
And how much performance experience did you get before that? Like at SAB, was it one show a year for workshop? Is that what you got, or?
We didn't even have a workshop.
Okay.
I remember. I have no recollection of that. Not.
So the first time you stepped on stage in front of an audience, that you were 21?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And when you joined after your time in the college, did you join as a corps member? How did it?
Oh, sure.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How did the promotions work with Mr. B?
Well, here again, it's very early time.
Right.
Jerry Robbins had heard through the grapevine that I was back. So he decides he's going to come off Broadway and teach me afternoon of a fall. So the very first ballet, as a principal, I ever danced. I was in the company about 2 weeks, and I did afternoon of a fall. And he said I was part of the inspiration for that. When I was a 13-year-old kid or whatever, I was in the same class as Jerry.
Oh, wow. I did not know this.
Yeah. And I was leaning up against the bar, and I just started to stretch. And Jerry started to connect dots and all of this. And years later, he said, you were part of the inspiration.
Incredible.
That's why I wanted you on the stage as soon as I knew you were in the company.
How cool is that?
Yeah. I mean, again, I will tell you, I had a magical time.
Yeah, absolutely. What was your time with Jerry like? So you guys were obviously the same age-ish? No.
No. We were, believe me, very, very different people.
Yeah.
And Jerry, I told him once that I could be a big pain in the ass, whatever I had to do. Jerry could really be a pain in the ass. I mean, he went to psychiatrists to work it out.
Okay.
Pain in the ass. Anyway, he's doing dances at a gathering, and he gives me this incredible opening. You know, I was the first guy.
Yeah.
And he's telling me who I should be, what. I'm looking around, I'm doing this. And, I'm so excited about it. And so the time is going by, and I asked Jerry if I could go to LA and do a television show. So I went for 3 days, and I come back, and he said, okay, I want to see your variation. So I said, okay. And I had, 2, 3, 4 people behind me who were learning the ballet. And I look in the mirror, and one of them is a woman. So I said, bullshit. This is not who I am. It's not what I'm about. So I went and I grabbed the barge and I sat down and said, oh, you got to get up, baby. You got to get up. I got to see this. I said, Jerry, when you decide whether it's going to be a man or a woman, let me know. I said, right now I have 3 ballets tonight.
Right.
And that was the end of the woman. It's interesting.
Yeah. Wait, and this was another question I had. How often were you in every ballet every night? Back in those days, you guys all were, right?
Oh, I would do 2 or 3 ballets a night, and we were doing 8 performances a week.
And how many weeks?
Oh, let's see. The first season usually started November. I mean, we rehearsed before. So it's November, December, January, probably a full week season in that area. But when I first joined the company, there were 44 people.
Right.
So you had to be available all the time.
Right. And how were your bodies surviving back then?
Well, how can I put it? Can you imagine not having danced this step for almost 4 years?
Right.
And then, so my body was tender, and I've had all kinds of difficulty because, again, I was a crazy guy, and really what I should have done was taking a full year, going back to classes and figuring it all out. But 4 years was a little too long.
It's incredible that you did that.
Well, I don't recommend it.
So when in your career did you start to feel limited by your body?
Probably.
Because you pushed it hard.
Yeah, very hard. Probably almost my whole time. But it didn't matter because I was a happy guy alive.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have given anything for it, and I did. And for me, it was mine. I finally had it. It was there. It was in my hands. And the difficulty was being injured for the last time. That was devastating. Yeah.
What was your injury?
I had my right hip replaced.
How old were you?
39. And I was just beginning to fully understand everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They, all of that helped me later on. I eventually founded a ballet company and
right.
It and
Wait, so after the hip replacement, did you come back to the stage or you were done?
No, not only was I done, I was so devastated by it all. It took me a year before I could go back and look at the company I had done it up.
Yeah.
A year, full year. Couldn't talk to anybody. Almost didn't go out on the streets. I mean, it was the end of my life. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So, before that final big injury, what were your ways to kind of take care of your body back then? Because you guys didn't have the access to PT that we have now and all of the MRI machines and...
a lot of it was up to us.
Uh-huh.
And I had a very good friend, crazy guy. His name was Willie Westlaw. And he was a soloist in the company. And he became a masseur.
Uh-huh.
And it got to the point, because I never stopped dancing. I mean, when the season was over, people would go and rest and do what they did. If I was flying around the country, because, a male dancer who could jump and beat and turn and partner and do all of that, I mean, you were busy.
Yeah.
And I was very busy. Everywhere. I did television in LA, I did guest appearances, I did orchestra performances all over the country. I mean, I was an active wacko.
How was television? You were dancing on television shows, or
everywhere. I mean, we did Sullivan shows, Dorothy Howell special, Burnett. I did everything.
Did you ever sit down and do a speaking interview, or you just always came out and did the dancing?
Mostly, I did the dancing, but as time would go by, if I would be someplace in 2 or 3 days, they would always organize interviews,
mm-hmm.
and it became known that I was somewhat articulate. So they would ask me, of course, to speak.
And I'm curious, were you billed as Edward Villella from the New York City Ballet? Is that how you guys were presented on these shows? It was like advertisement for the company?
Well, I guess you could think of it that way. Banerjee never thought of it that way. I did a major special with, what's his name? Gene Kelly.
Oh, wow.
And he did this thing called Dancing is a Man's Game. And, he was this dancing guy.
Yeah.
He liked to have the macho.
Yeah.
Kind of,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I guess he saw me and wherever, and he wanted me. He had all these athletes on, Dick Button, and Dick and I are still longtime friends from that show. Anyway, so he asked me to represent that. And there I was. I was, maybe a year and a half, 2 years in the New York City Ballet and something. I negotiated my own contract.
Amazing.
It's as I say, it's been unique, and
completely.
I'm the happiest guy.
So, wait, tell me a little bit about your time with Gene Kelly. Was he a nice guy?
Oh, very nice guy. You know, really, really nice guy. He wanted to be everybody's pal.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's how I grew up. I grew up with pals. I played a lot of athletics and so on. And,
yeah.
You know, you have this other camaraderie.
Yeah.
You know, we have a dance camaraderie. But in athletics, of course, you have the same kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, I don't want to leave your New York City Ballet time, but I think we've gotten to the end. You've had a hip replacement, and you never had a last show. 3, well, now 3, but then you had 1. And when you did your last show, did you know it was your last performance?
Yeah, I had a performance, and it was in a break. So I was trying a couple of steps, I went up in the air, and everything locked. And I crashed. And
wow.
That was it. I mean, essentially, yeah. And it took almost 5 years before I had the hip done. Because way back in those days, those operations were still in their early primitive days.
Right.
So, I don't know if you ever knew Bill Hamilton.
Yes, of course.
Oh, what a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Well, he and I were comfortable together. Prior to this, I had been at the White House. I was dancing at the White House. And I got this terrible pain in my leg. And I go back, I tell Bill about it. And he said, I'm worried. He said, your career may be over. So I was ready to go back on stage. And I fell. And
what ballet was it?
Oh, God. It's a long time ago.
Took it out of your brain.
Yeah. I talked to Bill about the operation, and he said they're developing one in England, in London, and it's going to be unique and amazing and all of this stuff. And he said, wait for it.
Okay.
So I said, okay, I will. And he had known the surgeons. And Bill, bless his heart, he came over and was part of the surgery so he would know how to look after me.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
He's one of the great people.
Yeah, he is.
Truly. Beautiful.
Yeah. Such a sweet guy with his bow tie. Did he wear a bow tie back then?
Yeah, usually.
So cute. So you fell on stage and then you didn't get the hip replacement for 5 years. Did you dance in that interim time or you were done?
No. Oh, God.
That was it. Yeah.
I couldn't make it across Broadway.
Oh, my God.
In one night.
Oh, my God.
It took me 2 nights to cross Broadway. Yeah.
Wow. And you stayed in the city during that time and tried to avoid the company and everybody because it was too painful?
It's not that I tried. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't face it.
What did you do with your time then?
Not very much. And I was in the middle of a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So I was losing a whole lot.
Wow.
And I didn't have much money. So it was hard. I mean, for close to a year, I almost couldn't eat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I used to live on a nice big bowl of soup a day. That was sort of like,
Wow.
yeah, it was not fun.
Yeah. How did you bounce back? Just slowly? That's a lot of bad luck.
I had to get through all that.
Yeah.
And it becomes a mental exercise, and you're grateful for it because
right.
Figure it all out.
Once you get to the other side, yeah.
And then you say, how am I going to do it the rest of my life? And, so it got to be tough. I was essentially desperate for money after my divorce and this and all of this stuff. And I had one last gig, and I had to cancel 2 years of performances. And I said, I got to try this one. And I had an offer from the Dorothy Hamill special. And I'm saying to myself, how am I going to do this? I mean, this is going to be tough. But I figured it out. Did tiny steps, and And I said, I don't want to do this. I know nothing about ice skating. And they wanted me to choreograph it. So I said, I don't know. And they said, okay, we're going to give you an assistant. She's a retired Canadian national figure skating champion, skated the Olympics and this and that. And I thought, well, okay. I thought, well, it's a retired skater. So I'm imagining, what is she going to look like? I thought she was going to be some, So they fly in from LA. I was in London getting myself organized and whatever. And I walk in to this meeting here in the city. And I see this blondie. I said, whoa. I said, who is that? And they said, that's your assistant. Thank you very much. We were married over 40 years.
Amazing. Amazing.
That's why the smile is on my face.
Exactly. That's so cool. So she comes from the figure skating world.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you watch a lot of ice skating because of Linda? Sure.
And she got me involved with a small ice skating company, and I've choreographed some pieces for the.
That's fun.
Yeah. So I spent my previous years before the pandemic and all of that, going all over the country, and people who would have a prodigal or a movies or this or that or the other, and I would be asked to go and coach them. And so I've been doing a lot of that, and ended up doing a bit of that with the New York City Ballet, and then of course it's all gone.
I know. I guess we just have to be patient, and I mean, in all of your time as an artist, you never saw anything like this. It's just crazy.
No, it's you can't describe it. You can't speak about it. I can't look anymore. See poor dancers in New York trying to do a bar in these tiny New York kitchens.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's devastating.
It's just crazy.
It tears my heart.
Yeah. And I think after all of this, we will all need it so much more. The dancers will need it, right? But the audience, like, also, everything happening in our world, we need some beauty, right? There's some real ugliness happening, and it just reminds you kind of why we do what we do as artists, to bring beauty and inspiration to the world and to people.
And these people who are talking about destroying culture.
Right.
Destroy culture. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's devastating. I'm outraged.
Totally.
Just outraged.
Yeah.
And what's going on now? Last week or so.
I know.
Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. Whew. Anyway.
If we all survive this, we'll be really resilient. This is quite the test this year. This year and a half that it will be, that we're having to go through this crazy time.
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad that that you're okay. You got it, and you're okay. But
yeah, it was hard. I mean, it really hit me. I'm of an age. I'm 84, and I'm not the guy to have this thing. And it's terrible to say, but Linda had it before me. I went, got myself checked, and our doctor said, you got it. And so, fortunately, Linda was getting over it, and she took care of me.
That's great. Because I was going to say, like, it's a difficult thing, because once you have it, you're not able to be around people.
Oh, I was, for 2.5 weeks, absolutely flat on my back. Never left the bedroom.
Oh my God.
I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't. So,
oh really? Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, Eddie, you've got such a fighter instinct in you. Just
pugnacious.
That's amazing. Well, I think I'll leave it there. I'm really glad you guys are both safe. I'm so grateful to have spent this time chatting, and this is one of the good things to come out of this pandemic, is little moments like this that we would never otherwise take the time to do. So I really am grateful for all of your time and your stories.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and I will say I'm totally charmed by you. You're a neat lady.
Thank
I
you.
respect you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll be in touch.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.